Hello. There we go. Now we're back in action. Let's see. I'm back with UFC 324. This is the first Paramount card, first card of the year, 2026. And to kick this fucker off, we got Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller. So we got Ty Miller. He's a contender series guy. He's younger. I think he's like 25. He's pretty tall for the division. He's 6'2". He has, he's got that range. He's got that lankiness. He's a pretty good boxer, but outside of that, I haven't really seen anything other than his boxing that stands out. I haven't really seen, him throw too many kicks effectively. As far as the grappling goes, it's nothing really crazy. It's just, ordinary regional scene MMA type, stuff you see. He does have decent boxing, though. He has a good jab. He's got a good cross. He's got good fundamentals. He moves his head. Can be a little stationary. He doesn't move his feet a whole lot. He gets hit with low kicks. He can kind of get bullied in the clinch a little bit, but a decent boxer. And he's fighting Adam Fugit. Now, Adam Fugit is 37. So I do get, the age difference. People look at Adam Fugit, they see he's 37. He's got some losses in the UFC. But he's also fought some really good people. If we look at his record here, is Islam Dulatov, who was a pretty big prospect currently and was a massive favorite going in that fight, got starched by him, not too surprising. And then he lost to Mike Malott, again, a good prospect, a good fighter, established in the UFC, has fought good people. And then Michael Morales, who is possibly fighting for the title next at 170. Those aren't bad losses for Adam Fugit. And, he has some wins too. He beat Josh Quinlan, close decision, and he beat Yusaku Kinoshita, and I believe he was actually a pretty big underdog in that fight, if I recall, and he fucking destroyed him, just ragdolled him, and I think he TKO'd him. Yeah, he did. TKO'd him in the first round. So, yeah, man, Adam Fugit's legit. He's got good grappling, from the top position. If he gets on top of you, he is, he knows what he's doing. He's pretty dangerous. He can, get the ground and pound going. He can threaten submissions. Not the best striker, kind of stiff on the feet. Doesn't really have a wide arsenal of techniques as far as his striking goes, but he is a pretty good grappler if he gets on top position. And he is tough, and, he's not going to just fold over at the first sign of adversity in a fight. So I'm kind of going with Adam Fugit in this one. I know he's an underdog. I get that Ty Miller's younger. He's undefeated. And that Fugit's 37. It seems like he's probably on his way out. But Fugit has legit grappling. And I just feel like he can, on the feet, I do feel like Ty will be the better boxer. I feel like he'll be landing, clean jabs, clean shots. But I think Fugit can kind of, walk his way through that, land some low kicks, get in that clinch, and then start working his grappling from the clinch and then from the top position if he gets a takedown. So I'm going Adam Fugit in this one by decision. I think he's going to, be able to wear out Ty Miller, get through that early storm where he'll probably be, getting touched up with the jab and on the feet with the boxing combinations. But I think Adam Fugit's going to win this one. I don't like these odds. I think the odds are too wide. I think it's one of those things where it's a contender series guy, younger, undefeated. People look at that and they look at Fugit, who's had some losses in the UFC, and he's older. And I get it. Like, I get the logic behind it. But if you actually look at the matchup stylistically and from like a skill set perspective, it's kind of fucking, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of 50-50. Like, I think Fugit can probably get his clinch going, get that wrestling going, and just kind of fucking grind it out in this one and get a decision win. So I'm going with Adam Fugit as the underdog here. Moving on up, we have Ricky Turcios versus Cameron Smotherman. I thought about this one too, and I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks Ricky Turcios can kind of outwork Cameron to win like a close 29-28 decision here. But I don't know. I've been back and forth with this one. I think I am going to go with Cameron Smotherman here. I just feel like Ricky's probably not going to take him down and really use his grappling. I don't know if he's going to have the wrestling in his back pocket in this one. Cameron Smotherman can defend takedowns, and he's a pretty strong guy for a bantamweight. So I don't think Ricky's going to be getting a whole lot of takedowns and just, out wrestling him in this fight. And so I do think most of this fight will be spent on the feet. And I think that Ricky's tricky. He does these weird. Ricky's tricky. He does these weird fucking like kicks and stomps and makes noises, and he can kind of get in guys' heads a little bit with some of the weird things he does. But I don't know. I think Cameron Smotherman's going to be able to, weather that storm and that volume, and he's going to be able to land cleaner, harder shots that are going to get scored heavily on the judges' scorecards. So I think I'm going to go Cameron Smotherman in this one by a close decision. I think that it's probably, I wouldn't be surprised to see a split, and I wouldn't honestly be surprised if Ricky does end up winning like a fucking close split decision just by out-voluming Cameron Smotherman. But I think Cameron will land the cleaner, harder shots, and I think that will lead to him winning a decision, and I don't see him getting wrestle-fucked in this fight. So I'm going to go Cameron Smotherman by decision in this one. Moving on up, we have Josh Hokett versus Denzel Freeman. Hokett, I think, is a pretty sizable favorite. Where's my water at? Clear my fucking throat. Anyways, Hokett, I'm pretty sure, is like a 3, maybe a 4-1 favorite or some shit. And I get it. He's a little bit younger. Yeah, he is athletic. He's got that football and wrestling background. And he has been fucking stomping heads in pretty early in fights. He's on a roll. And I get it, but Denzel Freeman's pretty fucking athletic. Also a wrestling, grappling background. And he had a bit of a stinker in his UFC debut. He was, I think, a pretty big favorite in that fight and ended up winning probably like a 29-28 decision. Didn't really throw a whole lot of volume. I don't know. It felt like one of those things where it was kind of the UFC debut jitters. Maybe the nerves got to him a little bit. But in that fight, despite it being boring as fuck, we did kind of see how athletic he was. He moves well for a heavyweight. He's got good bounce. He's got good rhythm. He can throw head kicks out of nowhere. He can string together like, little combinations. Even though we didn't see it a whole lot, we saw like flashes of it. And I think Denzel Freeman is my pick here. I think he's going to win this fight. I think Hokett's going to come forward and try just fucking barraging him like he does everybody. And I think that Freeman's going to be able to move out of the way, kind of be more athletic, and land counter shots that Hokett's not used to getting hit with because he's not used to fighting guys as athletic as Denzel Freeman. And I think Freeman gets this one done. I don't know how. I just see him winning. I don't know how. I could see a finish, but I could also see him just, countering him and being more athletic and kind of quicker to the shot and picking him apart to a decision. But I think Hokett's going to get reckless at some point, probably get clipped coming in, stunned, maybe taken down. And I wouldn't be shocked to see a Denzel Freeman submission. I don't know. If he can crack Hokett coming in, get him a little bit hurt, drop him maybe, or take him down after he hurts him, I could see him getting his back and maybe sinking in a choke here. I'm going to go Denzel Freeman, though. I think that people are they're looking at that debut and they're like, oh, this guy's he's mid, he's not very good, he doesn't engage. But I think that was more of a debut jitter thing, and I'm willing to give him a pass on that one. And I think he wins this fight. I think he beats Josh Hokett. I do. So I'm going Denzel Freeman. Moving on up, we have Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Another fight where the odds are pretty close. Hernandez is a slight favorite. MJ just fucking beat, I want to say, he was a big underdog his last fight. Who'd he fucking beat? Daniel Zellhuber. That's who he beat. And I think fucking Zellhuber was like, what, minus 800 or some crazy shit in that fight. And Michael Johnson kind of pitched a shutout. Dropped him, I believe, hurt him, and just kind of outworked him. That being said, Zellhuber is pretty much, a striker. He's got a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but it's more of like if he gets taken down or if there's a scramble, he can lock up a guillotine or a triangle. But other than that, Zellhuber isn't going to be searching for takedowns. He's not going to be hunting takedowns like Hernandez might in this fight. And I am going to go Alexander Hernandez just because I do think pretty much if you look at Michael Johnson's record, anybody that can wrestle to like a decent degree usually beats him. They usually beat him. Like if you look at his record, that's how he loses. It's the guys that don't really wrestle offensively, that strike, that, he gives trouble with. Michael Johnson still at 39, maybe even 40 now. He's still pretty fucking quick on the feet, and he still has some power, and he's still a good striker. He has been knocked out brutally in a few fights. He can get KO'd. He can be, chinned. But so can Hernandez. Hernandez, honestly, it's mostly like he gets TKO'd. He doesn't really get knocked the fuck out cold. He just kind of gets overwhelmed with volume and gasses out, and then he gets TKO'd. That's happened, but he hasn't been starched like Michael Johnson has. Hernandez is on a bit of a roll. He's got some momentum. It seems like he's starting to kind of finally click in the UFC. Things are working for him. Michael Johnson's having a bit of like a late career resurgence, if you want to call it that. But I don't even know if I would call it that because, again, if you give Michael Johnson guys that are just going to stand in front of him and strike, he's got a decent chance against most people. It's just when you get guys that can mix it up, use the grappling, that's where he's going to struggle. And I think Hernandez can get it done in this fight with his wrestling, with his grappling, and with his pace. I do think Michael Johnson's a better striker overall than Hernandez, and I think if Hernandez does just try to strike with him, Michael Johnson will probably win this fight. I think he does have quicker hands, and I do think he can tag Hernandez in those boxing exchanges, but I think Hernandez and his team are going to be smart enough not to do that. They're going to stay on the outside. They're going to chop kicks when they can, and then as soon as they can, they're going to initiate that grappling, initiate that clinch, and I do think Hernandez can get those takedowns and outwork Michael Johnson. Maybe submit him. I don't know if he'll submit him, but I do think he can beat him by decision. So I'm going to go Alexander Hernandez by decision here. Getting it done with the wrestling, getting it done with the low kicks. So yeah, I'm going to go Hernandez. Moving on up, we have Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. I'm going Charles Johnson in this one. I'm pretty comfortable with Charles Johnson in this one. I think he's going to use his range. Pick Alex Perez apart from the outside, kind of give him trouble with that range and that movement and the constant switching stances and cutting angles. Perez is a pretty good wrestler and grappler, but so is Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson can scramble his ass off and defend takedowns and get back up. And I think that's how he's going to win this fight. I wouldn't be shocked to see Perez get a couple of takedowns, but I don't think he's going to get any real meaningful control time with him. And I think Charles will just scramble back up to his feet and then just start picking him apart. So I'm going to go Charles Johnson by late third round TKO. I think it's going to kind of be a build-up where he's going to wear Alex Perez down, pick him apart, and then eventually he'll start to fatigue, and I think Charles Johnson will turn it up in the third round and probably get him out of there. So I'm going to go Charles Johnson, late third round TKO in this one. Moving on up, we got the opener of the regular prelims. We got Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. Bukauskas is the favorite, and I get it. Momentum is definitely more on his side than it is Krylov's, but Krylov's been fighting really good people, and he did get KO'd really bad in his last two fights. I get it, but man, I just think he's a better grappler than Bukauskas, man. Or is it Bukauskas? Bukauskas, not Bukauskas. Bukauskas. Modestas Bukauskas. I just think Krylov is a better grappler, though. And even in the striking, like, really, if the only narrative, the only reason why I think Krylov is the underdog in this fight is because I think people think his chin just completely shot. Like, if he gets touched, he's done. I think people are thinking that. And I get it. He did get fucking badly KO'd against Reyes and against, who the fuck else was it? Bogdan Guskov KO'd him. But Krylov's still really good, man. Like, on the feet even. Like, technically, he might have an advantage over Modestas. Modestas he's tricky. He does some things, but sometimes he's, low volume, and guys can get ahead of him because of that. But if you add in the grappling, I think Krylov is a way better grappler than Modestas is, and I think he can use that to his advantage in this fight and get the win here, man. I'm going Krylov. I'm not too confident because, again, if his chin is shot the way like Jack Hermansson's is, then Modestas probably will KO him again for like third time in a row. Krylov would be KO'd, but I don't know. I'm not going to bank on that. I'm going to go Krylov in this one by. I'm going to go submission. I think he could submit Modestus, man. I think he's just a way better grappler, and I think he can get it done with his grappling in this fight. So I'm going to go Nikita Krylov in this one as an underdog. Moving on up, we have Atiba Gutier versus Andrei Puliev. Atiba, again, I'm pretty sure is a massive favorite. But I don't know, man. It's just, for me with Atiba, it's fucking hard to really, like, trust him as a big favorite because outside of him having just really big power, what have we really seen from him? We haven't really seen a whole lot of offensive grappling or wrestling. We haven't really seen defensive grappling. We haven't really seen, super technical striking. We haven't seen footwork or movement. It's mostly just him, I'm not saying he has no skills. I'm just saying, like, he has basic skills with just extraordinary power. And it seems like people are just banking on him to just be able to fucking melt anyone he touches. Like a middleweight Ngannou or something. And I don't know if I see that. And Puliev is, he's a decent fighter. I wouldn't be shocked if Puliev won, if Atiba got kind of exposed in this one. But I don't know, man. Back and forth with this one. I'll probably pick Atiba. I'll probably trust his power in this one. He could probably land, a few clean shots on Puliev and get him out of there. But skill-wise, I don't know, man. I don't think Atiba's skill level matches the odds here. I think the odds are too wide. And I'm kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's tough for me to pick Atiba until I see a little more as far as, like, his skill set goes. We know he has some power, obviously, but what if his power doesn't work? What if there's guys that take some of those shots and, maybe starts to wear out? What happens then? Those are questions I want answered before I really bank on Atiba as massive, favorites in some of these fights. But I am going to go Atiba. He'll probably land something on Puliev and hurt him and, maybe get him out of there. Or if not, maybe win like a decision where he just lands the cleaner, harder shots. So I'm going to go with Atiba in this one. I just don't think his skill level warrants the odds. I'll say that. So moving on up, we have Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. I'm going Umar in this one. Pretty straightforward. I think that, Davison is probably not going to take him down. He's on the feet, Davison. He is good. He's explosive. He's tricky. He's got power. He's kind of awkward. He kind of, walks forward with his hands down and, really angles off and then explodes forward with big shots. But I don't know, man. I think Umar could probably out-grapple him if he gets top position. I feel like Umar could probably outstrike him from range. And I feel like Umar's durable enough where he's not going to just get chinned by Davison early in the fight. So I'm going to go Umar with this one. I'm going to go decision. I think Davison's tough enough where he's not going to get finished, but he'll probably just get outworked and out-hustled in this one. So I'm going to go Umar Nurmagomedov by an easy 30-27 here to get it done over Davison Figueiredo. Moving on up, we have Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. This is a hell of a fight. I think this is going to be fight of the night off the rip. And I think Gene Silva's going to get it done by decision. I think it's going to be a fucking war, though. Both guys are durable. Both guys have some power in their hands at 45. Both guys are bigger for featherweights. And Arnold Allen's the better grappler, but Gene Silva's not like a horrible grappler. Diego Lopez is a very good grappler himself and did beat him up in the grappling early on, but that's because Gene Silva threw a fucking like spinning back kick and got like his back taken and taken down immediately into mountain early into the fight in like the worst fucking position you can get put in, and survived, got out of it, and then started to kind of work his way back up into that fight and got just fucking absolutely wild in there and got crazy and just started charging forward and got clipped with a spinning back elbow. I'm going Gene Silva on this one. I don't think he loses too much stock from that last fight. I think that if he comes in a little more patient, picks his shots a little bit better, especially when he has success. That's the problem, is when Gene starts to land, he gets like this crazy fucking godly confidence that he's just going to walk forward and fucking destroy you, and you're not going to land anything on him back. And that's kind of what happened against Diego Lopez. Once he started to land and it seemed like the momentum was turning towards Gene Silva, he just got this crazy fucking confidence and just went charging forward with no fucking second thought to Diego Lopez and what he was throwing back, and got clipped. I think that he'll probably learn from that loss in this one, and he'll be able to get this one done. I think it'll be a war, though, man. Arnold will land shots, but they're not going to be spinning elbows like fucking Diego was throwing and shit. It's going to be more boxing and in the pocket, and I think Gene has a little more weapons. You know, he has those kicks, the knees, things like that, and I think he'll get it done. I think it'll be a war, a bloody fucking war. Arnold Allen will probably land some good shots too and test John Silva, but I think he's going to get this one done by decision here in a crazy fucking banger of a fight. So moving on up, we have Rose Namajunas versus Natalia Silva. I'm going Rose as the underdog here. I think Natalia Silva, her style, that stick and move, you know, that constant movement and picking her opponents apart, that style is not going to work against Rose, I don't think. Rose moves very well herself, and she's also very good at, like, as she's moving, she's good at timing shots and when to step in and when to really plant. And I think Rose Namajunas will land the more significant strikes in this fight and win a decision here. And plus, if the grappling comes into play, I do think Rose is probably the better grappler overall. Natalia might be a little more physically stronger than her in the clinch, but I think on the mat itself, I think Rose is the better grappler, and I think she could probably, you know, submit her maybe if Natalia throws like a fucking weird spinning kick or something like that and gets her back taken. But other than that, I think Rose will win a decision. If that doesn't happen, she'll probably just land the harder shots, more significant strikes, and I think the judges will value that more in Vegas than, you know, other certain states or other countries. So I'm going to go Rose Namajunas by decision here, landing the more significant strikes. It'll probably be close. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a split or Natalia, you know, gets a 29-28, wins a round or something. So I'm going to go Rose, close decision, gets it done here. Moving on up, we have Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. Now, I've been one of those people that said Waldo's better than what most people thought earlier in his career. Like, when he was a fucking massive underdog against Robelis de Spain, I was shocked. I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? And I think I actually have that video uploaded on my channel where I picked Waldo against him. And I was shocked that Waldo was a massive underdog against Robelis at the time, because Robelis de Spain had no grappling. Even on his feet, he gets off balance and just puts himself in awkward positions to get hit. So I was like, Waldo's pretty durable. He'll probably be a better technical boxer, and he'll probably fucking be able to get takedowns, which is exactly what happened. I don't know why I'm rambling on about the Despain fight, but anyway, the point is that Waldo has been a guy I've been kind of high on, and I feel like he's been a bit underrated in his career. That being said, I'm kind of shocked he's like a 3, almost 4-1 favorite against Derek Lewis. I get that Waldo, you know, I think the big part that people are looking at here is they're looking at Waldo's durability. He does have a pretty damn good chin. Sergey Pavlovich pieced him up for 3 rounds, hit him with some pretty hard shots, and didn't really faze him too much. And if you look at his UFC career, that's kind of been the case. Anytime that he gets hit clean, he eats it pretty well. But he has been KO'd a few times in boxing. I've watched some of those boxing matches, and he got fucking put out pretty bad in a few of those, man. And if Derek Lewis lands clean the way that other fighters have landed clean against Waldo in the UFC, I don't think Waldo will just eat those shots. He might be able to eat, you know, a couple of glancing ones, but if he eats one clean from Derek Lewis, I think he's going to get put on his ass. Maybe not knocked out cold, but definitely put on his ass. And I don't know, man. Derek Lewis has this confidence. He seems rejuvenated, which is pretty crazy to say because he's 40 years old. And at one point, I thought after the fucking the fucking God damn it, when he got submitted in the first round against let me look at his fucking record against Spivak. When he got submitted in the first round against Sergey Spivak, I thought Derek Lewis was done. I thought his days as a top-ranked heavyweight were over, and this motherfucker has revived his career in a weird way. Because if you look back, so he loses to Tai Tuivasa, he loses to Sergey Pavlovich, he loses to Sergey Spivak, and then he, it seems like, okay, it's over, it's done. And then he fucking smokes Marcus Rogerio de Lima. He loses to Jailton Almeida. He took that fight on short notice, main event, got laid on for 5 rounds. Not too surprising, but then, since then, knocked out Rodrigo Nascimento and knocked out Taliesin Teixeira, and now he's fighting Waldo. And I get like it's a bit of a step down in competition from the guys he was fighting: Almeida, Spivak, Pavlovich, Tuivasa. When he was on his streak, and also Styles make fights. Both guys are strikers. But anyways, Derek Lewis shocks me as a big underdog in this one, and I kind of think he can land one on Waldo. Waldo is a better technical boxer. He is, the more pretty fighter, so to speak, in terms of the way they look when they're throwing. And Waldo can, he can hurt Derek for sure. He can definitely knock Derek out as well. But I don't know, man. I see Derek Lewis clipping him with something. I think Waldo's going to get a little bit fucking goofy like he does with his hands down, smiling, sticking out his tongue. And I just think Derek Lewis is the wrong person to do that shit with. And I could see this one getting kind of scrappy early, and Waldo, gets a little too overconfident because he's landed some good ones, and then he just gets fucking cracked with a big shot. So I'm going Derek Lewis. I'm going Derek Lewis by knockout. I think he's going to get this one done. Waldo is the better fighter, but I don't know. Waldo plays that game sometimes, and I just don't think that game's the one you want to play against Derek Lewis, and I think Lewis gets it done. Moving on up, we have Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong in the co-main event. I'm going O'Malley. Song Yadong is a good grappler, but he's more of a good defensive grappler. He can get takedowns, but he's not really he's not going to use offensive wrestling as his game plan. You know what I mean? He's going to try to stand and bang. He's going to try to knock you out. He's going to try to beat your ass. And I just don't think that's going to work against O'Malley. You have to mix in takedowns. You have to mix in grappling if you want to beat Sean O'Malley. If you just stand up and have a pure striking match with him, he's probably 9 times out of 10 going to win. He's too rangy at 135. He's got big power, and he's got a wide, arsenal of techniques he can use. He can fight from both stances. He can fight well from the outside, moving, backing up. O'Malley is a really good striker. Like, if you just stand up with him, he's probably going to fucking clown you. And so I'm going to go O'Malley in this one. 3-round fight. I'm going to go by decision. I think Song Yadong is tough enough where he's not going to get knocked out. He'll be able to take some of those shots, but I do think he's going to get picked apart and outworked in this one pretty comfortably. I'm going to go Sean O'Malley, 30-27, gets it done. Pretty simple, straightforward. Main event, we got Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Here we go. Let's break this down. So I'll be honest. For the last month or so, I've kind of been leaning Justin Gaethje. For the last month or so. Until the last few days when I've really started to kind of look at the fight, watch footage, and just overall the optics of it. And now I'm starting to lean towards Paddy. Now, the biggest reason to that, and this is going to sound kind of fucked up, but I think Justin Gaethje might be starting to go through that early stage, CT brain damage type shit that Muhammad Ali was going through. I watched the first episode of The Embedded, and when I listened to him speak, and I know Gaethje's never been a fucking, a clear speaker. He's not like a fucking narrator or anything, but, his voice seems to be slowing down, and just to make sure I wasn't imagining it, I went and watched an older Embedded from 3 years ago and kind of compared the way he was talking. And dude, I legitimately think Gaethje might have CTE, early stages of oncoming fucking CTE. The way he's speaking slow, he's kind of talking, a little bit like this, and He's talking a little bit like that. It's like his speech is almost slowed down a little bit when you compare it to his older embeddeds. I'm not bullshitting you. Go back and compare that first episode of the embedded to some of the older embedded in the way that he is talking. He's talking a little bit slower. And it wouldn't shock me. Dude's been in fucking some of the most ridiculous wars we've ever seen in MMA. Even pre-UFC in the World Series fighting. He went through some fucking crazy wars. In the UFC, every fight of his has basically been a fucking crazy war. Especially the competitive ones. There's a few guys where he knocked out early and didn't really take damage, but he's been in some crazy fucking wars and taking damage. And I'm sure that he probably trains that way too. You know what I mean? Sparring counts for a lot. The miles count for a lot. He is 37. And in his last fight against Fiziev, he did look pretty good. He did look pretty good. And that's why I was kind of like leaning towards him for a while. I was thinking, man, like Patty's probably not going to take him down. Especially when Justin's expecting that. Like Justin's comes from a good camp. He's not, they're prepared. They know Patty's going to try to grapple him. They know Patty's going to try to lock up and look for his back in the clinch. They know that. They're not fucking dumb. They're training for that. They're preparing for that. But I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. I feel like Gaethje will be winning this fight until he isn't. I think that's how this fight's going to look. I think Gaethje's going to have success with the low kicks. I think he's going to be landing good shots in the feet. He might stun Patty, might be cracking him up. But Patty's tough. And Patty also has underrated power. That's the other thing I think people kind of underrate about Patty is his power. Like, he fucking kicks hard, and he punches pretty fucking hard, too. And he is a bit wild. He swings looping shots. But it's kind of worked for him, It's kind of worked for him. And it's also the threat of the grappling, too. It's one thing if you're throwing, those looping crazy shots and, people can level change, take you down, clinch you up to stall you out. You can't really do that, Patty, because he doesn't really give a fuck if you shoot a takedown on him, because he'll just start looking for a guillotine into a triangle, or he'll start scrambling. He's a very good grappler, so he's not concerned with, being reckless on the feet like most people would. And I think Gaethje's going to start out this fight looking good. I think people are going to be like, oh shit, Gaethje's going to win. He's going to be chopping Patty's legs a bit. He's going to be landing clean counters. But I think Patty at some point is going to fucking bite down and just say fuck it and go to war. And I think Gaethje will oblige. And I think Patty will crack him with something, probably wobble him, hurt him, stun him, drop him, and then probably take his back and submit him, similar to how Charles Oliveira did. So I'm going to go Patty Pimblett in this one by submission. Maybe even a knockout, maybe a knockout, but probably a sub. Yeah, and I think a big reason was honestly that embedded when I heard Gaethje talk. I know that sounds crazy, like a crazy reason to sway picks, but I am. I don't know, man. Something about Gaethje, just even with the whole fucking like the pimple thing that he had in that picture, and people are saying to his staff, which it probably was. I don't know. I just feel like he's getting older. Patty does have a massive grappling advantage if the fight does hit the mat. That's the thing, is Gaethje's a very good, anti-wrestler. He's very good at stuffing takedowns. He's very good at scrambling. If that initial takedown does happen, he's very good at scrambling back up to his feet quickly. And he's hard to hold down. But the times we have seen him get put on his back flat and kind of controlled, he has not looked great. And Patty is a very, very, very good top grappler and very, very heavy from the top position. So if he gets there, I do think he'll probably fucking absolutely maul Gaethje. But I do think he'll probably have a hard time getting it there if he's just trying to wrestle Gaethje. He's going to have to hurt Gaethje on the feet, drop him, something like that to get him down in those positions. And I think he can do that. I think Gaethje, his chin's, he's been knocked out. Again, all the damage he's taken. Not saying he's got a glass chin, but if you can land a hard, clean one, the way I think Patty probably can at some point, I think that you can get him down, hurt him, rock him, drop him, and then Patty will follow up, get on top, and submit him. So that's my picks. Let's go review just bottom to top. So I have Adam Fugit, I have Cameron Smotherman, I have Denzel Freeman, I have Alexander Hernandez, I have Charles Johnson, I have Nikita Krylov. I have Atiba, not too confidently, though. I have Umar. I have Jean Silva. I have Rose. I have Derek Lewis. I have O'Malley. And I have Pimblett. Those are my picks. I'm going to start uploading regularly more. Took a little bit of a break, like a fucking year break. Got a different job, figuring some shit out. But now I'm back to uploading. So this is UFC 324, the first card of 2026, the first card on Paramount. And that wraps that up. Close this out here. Let's see. There we go. Anyways, y'all have a good day. Probably not going to do a card recap, honestly. I'm just going to do the fucking predictions for a while. I'm not fucking worried about doing a shit ton of videos and all that volume nonsense. So anyways, y'all have a good day. I will see you next time.